So did you catch that little hot mic moment caught at the end of Kouri Richins' hearing? It was Monday, June 12th, and thank God I caught it. Thank God for Law and Crime Trials. Check the link below for the full, nearly 4-hour hearing. Right now, Law and Crime Trials is the only place I've found who caught nearly the whole hearing and put it together in one fell swoop, in one video. At the end, it's like the weight of the world was coming down on Kouri. Judge Mrazek had just told the court, look, Kouri, there's enough evidence here to at least hold you during the pre-trial phase, and the seriousness of her aggravated murder charges, accused of poisoning her 39-year-old husband, Kouri Richins, they are so serious that Kouri could face 25 years in prison or even the death penalty.
The defendant is charged with aggravated murder, which carries the possibility of sentences as severe as the death penalty and no less severe than an indeterminate prison term of 25 years to life.
Listen to it one more time and use headphones if you want.
I don't know, because I don't know.
Kouri is getting a lesson from her lawyer. Sky Lazaro, you gotta love this defense attorney. She's doing her best. What does she have to work with? Not much. In the face of overwhelming evidence against her client, she is explaining to Kouri that yes, these trials can take years. And Kouri is saying, I'm not going to make it. And Sky is trying to tell her, yes, you will, be strong. When the hearing began on Monday, I expected it to last about 2 or 3 hours, as prosecutors and defense attorneys had warned the judge previously. I didn't expect nearly 4 hours of some pretty deep, impactful statements, especially the victim's impact statement from Kouri's sister-in-law, Kouri Richins. We'll take a look at that. We will also take a look at the text messages that Kouri Richins sent her father-in-law 4 months after Eric's death. His son, and how Kouri played dumb again. I've never heard of such a drug. At the end of the nearly 4-hour hearing that day, which resulted in Judge Mrazek saying, look, Kouri, you're staying in jail for now.
The state's motion for pretrial detention is granted. Defendant Kouri Richins shall continue to be detained without bail during the time she awaits trial or other resolution of the criminal charges against her.
Reality is finally setting in on this woman. This would-be narcissistic, greedy mother of 3 who's accused of poisoning her husband. Maybe Kouri expected her manipulation to continue working throughout her life. Maybe it had worked thus far. Maybe her manipulation worked from the beginning to gain Eric as a husband, with Eric finding Kouri in Home Depot and sweeping her off her feet and seemingly being a happy couple. Well, if they were such a happy couple, one lawyer is going to bring up, why wouldn't Eric change Kouri back to the beneficiary on his trust? This man was worth an estimated more than $5.1 million at the time of his death. And Kouri knew there was a prenup in place. She assumed she would get a lion's share of that money along with the $1 million plus life insurance payment she was able to gain. Thankfully, Kouri wasn't able to use that $1 million plus in Eric's life insurance money to bail herself out because Kouri was not granted bail. She has to stay there. No amount of money can get her out of there. Thankfully, this wonderful Judge Mrazek listened to the powerful impact statement of Kouri Richins, where Amy actually described how Kouri not only took out multiple life insurance policies on her husband. One expert opined it was either 6 or 7 insurance policies on Eric, but Kouri also took out allegedly multiple life insurance policies on their 3 children.
I should also not forget to mention the multiple life insurances she has taken out on the boys.
What did Kouri plan to do with that, if anything? That's why Kouri is deemed such a danger to society. If she was willing to deal in such a dangerous drug as she's accused of poisoning Eric with, 5 times the legal limit, which lends itself not to be an accident, then what could she do in her desperate state, as Judge Mrazek would say, getting out, facing 25 years to life or even the death penalty? I could not find if Utah has ever executed a woman. Maybe they haven't. It's been at least probably 13 years since they've executed anyone, but Utah definitely has the death penalty, so the weight of that on Kouri, if she were walking out here free, imagine the danger witnesses like Kouri Richins would be in if Kouri would stop at nothing to allegedly do away with her own husband in order to save her own skin.
Because of her actions, there has not been a day that has gone by we have not lived with paralyzing anxiety and fear, worrying for the boys' lives as well as our own.
But Kouri seems a little spoiled, if not very spoiled. I don't know what's wrong with her. I'm fascinated by her. I want to know what's in her brain. Her sister-in-law said, I might be naive, but I didn't know evil like this existed. And that's what I felt looking at Kouri. Part of me actually feels saddened for her, but you have to think of her alleged victims too. I have to remind myself, Kouri is telling her lawyer, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. As if she's maybe threatening to harm herself or try to garner sympathy like, I can't do it, I can't do this jail. Obviously, Kouri's not in one of the luxury prisons that she Googled. Maybe she's learning in real life there aren't really any necessarily luxury prisons. I mean, you hear about Club Fed, you hear about different prisons that might have yoga and maybe they have tennis, but I'm sure those are few and far between. If the Summit County Jail that Kouri is in is anything like my local county jail where I go in every month for prison ministry, you don't want any parts of it. Maybe she's learning, you know, those orange jumpsuits, those slides, those socks, if you're, I guess, lucky enough to have them, and the food and the sleeping conditions. It can't match up to the comfort she would have had if she would have remained in her Willow Court home, stayed there with Eric and tried to work things out and not allegedly develop such a sinister plot to harm him. What powerful visual statements were those guys in the back. They wore their C&E stone masonry t-shirts. I was wondering who they were when they walked in, and you got to give it to the Law and Crime Trials camera person. Excellent job. Excellent camera work. Catching that hot mic moment at the end, catching the interactions with Kouri and her lawyers, catching her wearing those silver bracelets, so even though she didn't want to be shackled in court, she had to be. She got to wear her own clothing, apparently, but she didn't win the fight of not being shackled. But the C&E logo, it looks like, I guess, a C and an E is in the middle of it. So that's probably the logo that was in Kouri's book. I thought it was just a C. I thought she had removed the E. I didn't understand the logo. It was so cool that Eric's C&E Masonry employees stood strong, powerful witnesses just wearing those shirts in the back of the courtroom. And speaking of powerful witnesses, we heard from 3 witnesses, and they held their own during direct examinations and their cross-examinations. Again, watch the entire nearly 4-hour thing if you want on Law and Crime Trials. I'm giving you the highlights.
03:58 hours on March 4th.
What, if anything else, does EMS say about how long he had been dead?
One of the EMS personnel made the comment that he had been dead a while.
What, if anything, did the defendant tell her best friend regarding whether she performed CPR on Eric Richins?
Investigators found text messages between the defendant and her best friend that was her explanation to her friend that she conducted CPR on Eric prior to EMS arrival.
And do those text messages read, I pumped so damn hard, so hard, screaming at him to come back to life?
Yes.
You testified earlier, Detective, that EMS responded. Have you interviewed the first EMS responder?
Yes, I have.
What observations did that EMS responder make?
They told me that when they arrived, they began CPR compressions on Eric, and that upon beginning those compressions, Eric began to foam at the mouth. He stated that that observation indicated that CPR was not likely conducted before he arrived.
Detective, as part of your investigation, did you look into whether Eric Richins used illicit drugs?
Yes.
What did you determine?
Based on the interviews that we conducted with those who knew Eric well, all stated that he did not use illicit drugs other than consuming THC gummies on occasion.
Those that you spoke to include Eric's two best friends that he's known since high school?
Yes, both made the same statement, that they never knew Eric to use any illicit substances other than the THC gummies.
When I reference a hunting guide in Mexico by the initials TR, do you know who I'm referring to?
Yes.
Did you speak to this hunting guide?
Other Summit County detectives did, yes.
And what did this hunting guide, if anything, say about Eric Richins using illicit drugs while hunting in Mexico?
The guide told detectives that several of their clients, when they come to Mexico, will seek out someone that can put them in contact with illicit substances while they are down there for their hunt. He stated that Eric Richins was not one of these, that Eric was solely focused on the hunt.
Has the defendant made any statements regarding whether her husband, Eric Richins, used illicit drugs other than THC?
Yes, in several statements made by the defendant throughout the investigation, there have been at least 10 times that she has said that Eric does not use illicit substances and did not use illicit substances.
But it was Amy Richins' testimony, her victim impact statement, that sealed the deal, that let the court know on an emotional level what she's been through with her sister-in-law all these years. To watch Kouri go from this younger girl who Amy was on one of her first dates with Eric and Kouri. It was probably a double date, I assume. So she watched them all the way through as they got married and had children. And now to this point where Kouri's on trial for his murder. Amy describes the day that Kouri allegedly attacked her. Amy was leaving, it was snowing. Kouri had a locksmith drilling in Eric's gun safe, trying to get money out of there. And Amy is saying, look, why are you drilling into his gun safe? He wouldn't want you messing it up. Kouri was trying to get money out of there. But Amy said she would never forget the look of pure evil when Kouri started realizing her world was falling apart. Kouri could not kick her sister-in-law out of that house on Willow Court because Eric had put his other sister, Katie, as beneficiary to his estate, not Kouri. Kouri gave Amy such a look of rage and evil and attacked her. According to Amy, punched her in the face and throat. It took 4 people to get Kouri off of Amy.
Amy Richins. Amy, if you don't mind stepping forward to the podium. Good morning. Go ahead.
Dear Judge Mrazek, I'm here today to represent my brother, Eric Eugene Richins, whose life was taken in a senseless act of poisoning on March 3rd, 2022. His wife, the defendant, has been accused of committing this crime. If she is found guilty, she has committed the ultimate act of betrayal. Eric is gone, and I am brokenhearted. He was my best friend and protector. The feeling of loss is so great it is visceral. And with the sorrow comes a wave of panic and not being able to see him again. I can never talk to him, never hug him again, and never more be a part of his life. Eric's world revolved around his family, his love for hunting, the family cow ranch, and his intense drive as a successful entrepreneur. Being born into the Richins legacy shaped Eric's formative years and resulted in a lifetime of hard work, dedication, and fierce loyalty. At an early age, Eric learned the joys of keeping horses and cows around. He spent countless hours helping our dad work the ranch, hauling hay, feeding the animals, and mending fences. He loved our family unconditionally and was a devoted son, brother, uncle, and father. Eric was a family man who always strove to be the absolute best father and husband. He was an attentive and loving father to his 3 sons and a devoted husband to his wife of almost 9 years, Kouri, the defendant. Eric did absolutely everything in his power to provide his family and his 3 sons with every possible opportunity to learn, grow, and have fun. He was the coach or assistant coach on all his boys' teams, which included soccer, basketball, and baseball. He spent countless hours coaching and teaching the boys to play aggressive and give it their all. Eric truly cared about every single child he coached and wanted the absolute best for all of them. There was never a dull moment when you were around Eric, whether it was him showing up to a family dinner with no socks or the sleeves torn off of his shirt because he had to make an emergency bathroom stop along the way, or his calling to tell you he rolled the 4-wheeler for the upteenth time is stuck and he needs you to come get it. It was never boring. Eric loved to have fun and always wanted to make sure everyone else did as well. He owned almost every motorized toy possible, from 4-wheelers and side-by-sides to trucks and snowmobiles, and was so excited to share those with his sons. He had the perfect combination of business sense and foresight. He built a very successful masonry business from the ground up and helped many friends do the same. He had a special ability to build close relationships with everyone he worked with, which really allowed his business to thrive. Eric loved every aspect of his job, but most of all, he loved the people he worked for and those he worked with. Eric faithfully supported organizations that he truly believed in. He never was one that wanted recognition or accolades. He did most things anonymously and without recognition. Eric was a true champion of all people. It did not matter if you were an employee, friend, family, or the next random person walking down the street. If you needed anything, you could count on him. He truly cared about each person he met. Eric loved fully, laughed loudly, and lived life with reckless abandon. He enjoyed great adventures to far-off places, but also cherished the small and finer things in life. No obstacle was too great for Eric. He simply viewed each one as a challenge. No peak was too high, and the next adventure was always just around the next bend. Words cannot describe the loneliness and loss that is felt in every heart that was lucky enough to know him. Eric was such an inspiration and role model for us all. His loss has created a Grand Canyon-sized hole in this community. Except instead of taking millions of years to slowly form, our worlds change overnight. His 3 boys' entire worlds and their perspectives on life changed. None of our lives will ever be the same. Eric died under horrendous circumstances. I am tormented at the thought of what he endured. I play it out in my mind. I go through the terrible sequence of events. I wonder when he realized he was in mortal danger. I wonder what Kouri may have said to him in his last moments. How long was he conscious, knowing he would die? Where were Eric's boys when all of this happened? Did they hear Eric's body fall to the ground? Did they catch a glimpse of their father taking his last breath? It's torture to think of. Why did Eric lose his life? Why did the boys lose their father? Was it because of Kouri's greed and a desire to get life insurance and other assets? If so, that is abhorrent. How could anyone value human life so cheaply? I cannot comprehend it. I'm overflowing with grief and pain at the thought that Eric meant so little to her. If Eric had died because of an illness, he would have been cared for. He could have looked after him and been with him. If he had died because of an accident, people would have tried to help. There would have been kindness. But there's no comfort to be had here. There's no consoling thought in the way Eric died. In his last moments, after being intentionally poisoned, he was faced with betrayal and terror. The thought of it is unbearable. I am haunted by the horror of it. This last year has been a living hell for our family. We have watched as Kouri has paraded around portraying herself as a grieving widow and victim, while trying to profit from the death of my brother. Both by trying to profit from a book about his death
and trying to get life insurance and assets that should go exactly where Eric wanted them to his boys. Immediately after Eric was killed, Kouri told us she could not help us get anything ready for the funeral as she was too distraught with grief. We shortly found out that was not true at all. In fact, she pulled herself together enough to go close on the purchase of a $2 million home, hire a real estate agent, hire an architect to create CAD drawings of the home, hire a lawyer in order to file a lawsuit on Eric's trust, hire a locksmith to come break into and clean out my brother's safe, and attempt to have Eric cremated. She mustered up the strength and resolve to do most of this within 48 hours of his death. Kouri assaulted me. I will never forget the look in her eyes when she attacked me that Sunday morning. It was early and had been snowing most of the night. I was just getting ready to leave and heading out to the car when I saw a locksmith in Eric's detached garage starting to drill out his gun safe. I asked Kouri multiple times why we could not just call my dad for the code. I could not understand why she was breaking into and ruining Eric's safe. To this, she screamed at me at the top of her lungs, called me some inappropriate things I cannot share with you here, and then told me to get out of her house. It was then that I told her that she could not kick me out of my brother's house. My sister Katie was now the executor of Eric's trust and estate, and just like Eric, she would not want the defendant breaking into his gun safe. Kouri looked at me with pure hatred and rage. I was messing up her plan. I was getting in her way, and because of that, she attacked me. She punched me in the face and neck multiple times. It took 4 people to pull her off me that day. Before the funeral, Kouri opened a bank account and asked everyone that was grieving to send her money instead of sending family cards and flowers. It was not even 2 weeks after Eric's passing that we were told she had taken down all but one photo of my brother and removed all his clothing from the house. Kouri put together a golf tournament in Eric's name 2 months after his death on what would have been his 40th birthday and told his family, all of us, that we were not allowed to attend. Since Eric's death, it has come to our attention that Kouri took out multiple life insurance policies on Eric without his knowledge. It appears that she forged his signature on various documents, assigned herself as Eric's durable power of attorney, inappropriately diverted money from his business to herself, and assigned herself as beneficiary of Eric's portion of our mother's retirement account. I should also not forget to mention the multiple life insurances she has taken out on the boys. Her most recent business venture was authoring a children's book about how to help grieving children cope with the loss of the death of a parent. In this book, she had the audacity to use the boys' real names and even use their last family portrait. Her behavior gives me great concern, as she has exploited the boys for money and will likely do so again. In addition, Kouri has weaponized Eric's children, manipulating my dad to do or not do things by threatening to cut him out of their lives if he did not capitulate to her demands. She similarly deprived the boys of contact with myself, my sister, and her daughters, unless we agreed to give her the money in Eric's trust. Money that Eric wanted to go to his 3 children. As if that were not enough, I have been told that Kouri started telling their 3 little boys that none of Eric's family or friends loved them. She apparently told them none of us cared for them or wanted to be around them, even though that is the exact opposite of what was happening. We all want nothing more than to be there for those 3 little boys, my nephews, yet Kouri has made sure to cut us out of every aspect of their lives. This is all just a brief summary and the start of what our family has been through over the last year. We have scarcely gone a day without finding out some new allegations or evidence regarding something Kouri appears to have maliciously done to attack and undermine my brother, his 3 little boys, and our family. We have all been there since the beginning of Kouri's and Eric's relationship. I was there on one of their first dates. We were there at the wedding. We were there when each of the boys were born. We have been there for every birthday party, school graduation, and rodeo. We welcomed her into our family and treated her as one of us. Not only did she betray our brother, it feels as though she has murdered and taken away a part of our souls as well. Because of her actions, there has not been a day that has gone by we have not lived with paralyzing anxiety and fear, worrying for the boys' lives as well as our own. I may be naive, but I never knew evil like this existed. If Kouri was in fact willing to kill Eric for money, who's to say that what she will not do? Who would be next? Kouri was in a desperate financial situation when Eric was killed, and that situation seems even worse now. We understand that she has defaulted on loans and is already a defendant in other lawsuits based on her financial misdeeds. I am truly concerned that she will stop at nothing to dig her way out of the problems, including murder. She seems devoid of moral sensibility, and there is no telling what she will do if she is released. Judge Mrazek, her fate lies in your hands. Please do not allow Kouri to use the fraudulent life insurance proceeds to get out on bail. That would be morally reprehensible. Please do not allow Kouri to take advantage and make a mockery of our justice and legal system anymore. She has done enough. Please do not allow Kouri to hurt Eric's memory, our family, friends, and community anymore. We have been through enough. Please do not give Kouri the opportunity to hurt Eric's 3 boys anymore. They have lost enough and have been through enough. Since Eric's death, we have learned and unfortunately are continually reminded that Kouri is desperate, greedy, and extremely manipulative. If she gets out on bail, I will be afraid not only for my own life and those of all of my family, but most importantly for the lives of Eric's 3 sons. Our family has already suffered enough. Please do not let Kouri out on bail where she will be a risk to do further harm. Please protect what Eric put his life on the line for. His 3 boys. Thank you.
Maybe, thank you.
In the meantime, Kouri's legal defense is all over the place. Of course, it's not their duty to prove her innocence or anything like that. The prosecution has to prove Kouri's guilt. The defense, they only have to throw a bunch of theories like spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. For more than 1 year, Kouri insisted Eric did not do drugs. My husband doesn't do drugs. Since the body cam video transcript, March 4th, 2022, when EMTs arrived, until a whole year later, Eric doesn't do drugs. Even in court on Monday, when they were implicating a woman named CL, claiming she's the one who sold Kouri these dangerous pills, Kouri's shaking her head no.
Where, according to CL, the defendant had told her there was a check waiting under the mat at the defendant's home. And so she knocked on the defendant's door, and the defendant came to the door and wrote her a check from her business, from the defendant's business, for $1,300 for the purchase of the fentanyl. CL told us on 2 separate occasions at the same Maverick gas station in Draper.
Kouri's defense attorney is trying to make it sound like CL was just an employee for Kouri, and that's why Kouri was writing CL checks out of her business account.
I think the most important thing, if she poisoned them, is did she ever get it from CL? Was it ever requested from CL? They can't put her anywhere in the same vicinity of Kouri's phone.
But in the state's written response to motion to set conditions for release, Kouri's trying to blame everything from possibly tainted THC gummies, but then she's switching her tune in these phone calls, I can't wait to hear these, where she's claiming Eric was the one who asked her to buy the pills. She's actually blaming this man who's no longer here for his own demise. Quote, Eric Richins asked her to get pain pills for him so no one would know it was him asking. That's from the Summit County Jail call, certified transcript from May 8th, 2023. I want to get my hands on that one too. And then 4 months after Eric was killed, Eric Richins' grieving father, Gene, he was asking Kouri for an explanation of information he found in the search warrant. So I want to read these to you. Kouri texted him the following, claiming she'd never even heard of fentanyl. Again, playing that nut roll. Gene said, Kouri, I was reading the search warrant that you sent over to me. Can you answer some questions, please? You told the police Eric had a painkiller addiction in high school? I released the records to the police and there was never any such thing. Where did that come from? Where did the fentanyl come from that he took? Why would something like that be in the house? I do not understand. So in response to Eric's, saddened dad, not expecting to lose his son when his son's only 39, Kouri wrote, "Of course, I'll answer anything you want. There's more than you know, Jean, and if you would just talk to me, it would help, I promise. I appreciate you asking." So at this point, it must have been when Kouri and Eric's family, there's a big breach. Like Amy explained, Kouri threw this 40th birthday fundraiser, whatever, and Kouri had been asking for money. And there's a Facebook post where Kouri was listing bank account numbers and everything to give her money. But Eric's 40th birthday celebration, the Richins family wasn't even invited. So maybe that's what Kouri means by, "If you would just talk to me," trying to gaslight his dad as well as other people. Kouri wrote, "Eric always told me he would steal pain pills from Linda." So that's his mom, and she's gone now. So it's bad for Kouri to blame Eric's mom as well, indirectly. "Eric always told me he would steal pain pills from Linda and whoever he could in high school and would be high all the time. It wasn't just me he told this to. It was friends, neighbors who can contest to this. He told me so many stories of being in class and just being high on pills, he would have to leave or throw up. He said it got so bad one time Linda talked to him about getting him help and Eric begged her not to because he didn't want you to find out." Kouri's speaking for two dead people, Linda and Eric, so Jean can't go, ask his wife, "Did this really happen?" He said he eventually got straight when he went on his mission. That's why when Eric had knee surgery, he refused to take painkillers when he struggled so bad and hurt so much. So Kouri's claiming Eric had knee surgery and he refused to take pain pills, whereas others might interpret that, as is interpreted in this document too, that Eric was so against strong drugs that he didn't even want to take pain pills for his knee surgery. He said he was so terrified of getting hooked on that crap again because it made him so high, so he would only take ibuprofen. "Jean, I have never known what the hell fentanyl was until cops searched the house." Now, not that cops found any, but Kouri is claiming just because they were looking for this dangerous drug, she had no idea. I mean, this is so laughable. I think just about everyone has heard of this dangerous drug, with as many overdoses and accidental overdoses have happened because of this drug. But Kouri is claiming, "Oh, never heard of it until cops searched the house." So this is a woman who's claiming since a year ago she's never heard of fentanyl. Very unlikely. I had to Google what it was when the lady said she was at my house with a huge crowd of cops. I don't know if she means Detective Woody, whom I've learned is a woman by now and is off the case, I guess. But Kouri says, "It's like meth, so I've learned. I've always drank alcohol and you know that," and that's where it cuts off. But you'll see in the footage throughout, Kouri attempts to cry and she's doing the old, pinch. Maybe I can make myself cry, and her lawyer's handing her a tissue. Kouri does make movements with her mouth, kind of like to the side a little bit, almost like holding in her emotion. But at some points, I almost thought I saw a slightly imperceptible sly smile on her face. Maybe a little duper's delight. But she got upset on cue pretty early into the hearing when there was talk of, the night that Eric had CPR allegedly performed on him. I don't think she ever did, because the paramedic said that's when he performed it, that's when Eric started foaming at the mouth, and he would expect in his experience for that to have happened previously if his wife had truly been performing CPR. So Kouri will drop her head and pinch her eyes as her lawyer, Sky Lazaro, put a comforting hand on her back. People who knew Eric well knew that he didn't use illicit drugs. That's what's being said. Kouri will shake her head during certain testimony when this informant, CL, or whomever allegedly sold her the pills, said she, went to check for a check under the mat. It wasn't there. And Kouri instead wrote her a check for something like $1,300, but it was for fentanyl, and Kouri shakes her head like no. And she shows her emotions. You know, when they were talking about the bug out bags, all these bags, these duffel bags that were pre-packed for all 5 members of the family, including Eric, in the garage. You know, Kouri's whispering she likes to talk to Sky Lazaro the most. Consult with her.
There were several duffel bags stored in the garage, along with backpack-sized day packs, and each was identical and labeled for a different member of the Richins family. Those backpacks were seized subject to a warrant and were inventoried and photographed. Inside the bags, detectives located several items that would be useful in an emergency situation. But the most interesting were documents needed for travel for each member of the family. Each bag contained a photocopy of a state-issued ID in the children's case, along with passports for Eric and the defendant, as well as global entry travel cards for both Eric and the defendant.
Did those bags also contain clothing, toiletries, that kind of thing?
Yes.
But Sky Lazaro, all she has to work with is these initial theories that detectives had. They didn't know if Eric had done this to himself, whether it was an accident or someone else did it to him. So of course, her defense attorney seized on that.
He potentially did it to himself, knowingly, that someone else did it to him, or that it was accidental, right?
I don't know specific dates, but I'm aware that Eric was on a hunt in Mexico shortly before his death.
Okay. And JS tells you that he was really upset, actually leading in the days right before he passed away, about what had happened with this hunt, right?
Yes.
And Sky Lazaro is trying to say some guy named JS testified or talked about just how upset Eric was. There was this hunting trip to Mexico and something went wrong, and so he was really upset. And so we see where Sky is going with this, like, oh, Eric was so upset, maybe he did himself in when he came back. There was a little bit of drama when the judge thought that KUTV and Court TV were live streaming when they shouldn't have been. So he had to kind of break things off, take a break. But it turns out, it appears Court TV was doing the right thing, using the media rooms feed like they should have been. I'm assuming KUTV was as well.
Oh, yeah, no, you're fine. So, ladies and gentlemen, I need to handle an issue with some members of the media that are live streaming without permission to do so. This is a good opportunity to take a restroom break. We're going to reverse the process we used on the way in. If the gallery would please follow the deputy's instructions, proceed orderly on the way out. We'll let you stretch your legs. We'll come back in about 20 minutes. Thank you. Now. All right.
But the main point was Kouri having that weight of the world come down on her, finally realizing life isn't going her way. Like, what? Kouri even balked at having her next hearing, which is scheduled for June 22nd. At one point, they bandied about maybe scheduling that for July 7th. And you could hear Kouri just saying, no, as if she can't even wait until July 7th for the next hearing.
I'll be out of town. You want to go to the 7th?
No. I can't. I do it the 30th instead then, so I
We
can...
can't. I'll be out of town. You want to go to the 7th?
No.
And why is it always a hearing? This always happens where, I don't know if it's a prosecutorial tactic to always say, I don't have all discovery. I don't have everything. And the state is always saying, yes, we gave you everything. I do not understand why there can't be a central tower or external drive or something that holds gigabytes worth of data. Say, for instance, in the Koberger case, what is it, 5 terabytes worth of data in discovery? Who knows? Why can't they get a 10 terabyte tower put everything in discovery on that, be it videos and everything, and just make sure both sides have all the discovery, so it can't be this issue of, oh, Your Honor, I never got that. I never received that. Anyway, that's what the next hearing is for, to see, okay, do you have everything? Because Kouri's attorney was saying, I don't have it. I'm at the state's mercy. I've never seen this. I've never seen that. I've got to prepare. Of course, both sides need everything. You don't want Kouri to get off if she's guilty on any technicalities.
Good morning, Ms. Richins.
How many life insurance policies were there on Eric's life at the time of his death?
I believe there were 6.
Okay. And
7.
who, the PenFed accounts at any time?
Yes.
Do you recall was any money in those accounts?
For most of the time, I reviewed a little bit over a year. I believe most of the time it had $5 in it.
Okay. Right. I have no further questions, Ron.
I'm going to be really quick because I'm going to pretend that's the LE so I don't the glass, you know, Kouri tells them she made him a drink, right? The glass is there. No one thinks to bother to.
Where's the evidence that the glass is present?
Well, they didn't look for a glass, I guess is what I should say. Being bad with money does not make you a murderer. Being bad at managing your accounts, makes you bad at math, but it doesn't make you a murderer. The other thing I think that's significant is by the testimony that came out today, the hard money loans that she owed, at least, far exceeded life insurance policy that was paid. And so even getting the life insurance money was not going to solve Kouri's problems, not even close to solving her problems. Eric's death. In fact, she's in a worse position because of his death, because Eric had a business. He was continually making money. You know, he was, from what it sounds like, the one putting the majority of the contributions into the joint account. So his death, from a financial perspective, has harmed her far more than any money that she gained from any life insurance.
The idea that no glass was tested, well, if you look at the pictures that we have submitted, there's nothing there. It's a stage scene. How they can argue that Eric somehow consumed this himself? There's no glass, there's no baggies, there's nothing there that indicates that this was ever taken, the fentanyl was ever taken by Eric. And also to say it's accidental, 1 or 2 pills might be accidental. 20 or 5 times the lethal dose is not accidental, Your Honor. That is someone who wants Eric dead. And the person who benefited the most from Eric being dead is the defendant, or the person who thought she was going to benefit the most from Eric being dead is the defendant. She thought she was going to be entitled to Eric's estate. She didn't know that there was this trust that had put the money into Kouri Richins' name.
Could support a reasonable jury reaching a guilty verdict on the charge of aggravated murder. Defendant knew how the premarital agreement would operate, but was not aware that Eric had changed his estate plan. So at the time of Eric's death, defendant's subjective understanding was that she would get a greater share of the marital estate if Eric died during the marriage, as opposed to what she would receive under the premarital agreement if the parties divorced. Ms. Richins, I wish you best of luck. I'll see you back on June 22nd. Thank you.
That was the bulk of that hearing. I just had to get that hot mic moment out there. Yeah, law and crime trials, they're doing their job. They are on it. And those microphones, people forget to cover their mouths. They pick up apparently a lot. And those broadcast cameras, probably digital, with nice microphones, pick up a lot too.
There's so many people. I'm just going to leave it alone. No, where you are is great. Excuse me, I think so she said that they didn't seriously
All right, thanks. Folks, if you want to take a moment and use the restroom, Ms. Richins, if you'd like to use the restroom, stretch your legs, this is an opportune time.
Thank you.
I'm trying to figure this out. Thank you.
Thankfully, the judge wants this trial going at a speedy clip. He realizes that Kouri Richins is incarcerated, so we'll see. Will it be a speedy trial? What will happen? How fast will we be able to, get her in court, get her in trial? Will she take a plea deal? What's going to happen? I don't know. Let's stay tuned. Philippians 3:20. But our citizenship is in heaven, and we eagerly await a Savior from there, the Lord Jesus Christ. That's what reminds me of Kouri. That's why I have, despite all of her evils and alleged manipulations, her saying, I'm not going to make it. What about her husband not making it? What about her grieving boys? I pray to God they can make it and grow into healthy young men, despite all this trauma they've been put through. But I pray Kouri Richins doesn't go the way of the Unabomber and other people who've been incarcerated. I don't want her harming herself. There's been enough harm in this case.
I don't know, because I don't know how long this time is.
All I want for defendants like Kouri Richins is to tell the truth, accept righteous punishment. For the most important part is just to get right with God. Our citizenship really is in heaven for those of us eagerly awaiting our Savior, Jesus Christ, and that's what I want Kouri to understand. In that interview, she talked about, Mom, how far is heaven? The next, series in her book. And she talked about not being religious. And I know, like I talked about, I hate that word too. But I do wonder, where is her faith? And with her saying, I'm not going to make it, she doesn't want to do that, not knowing where she's going. Even if she does have to spend 25 years in prison if found guilty, even if she gets the death penalty, whatever happens, she's going to want to go to heaven. It's not just going to be some book title for some children's book franchise line, another money-making vehicle. This is serious stuff. I think we watched the realization of the gig being up come down on her in those moments when she confessed to her lawyer, I'm not going to make it. My suggestion is, Kouri, you better start calling on God in Jesus' name and make it, and look back at your life and understand where everything went wrong. But don't take your life. Serve out any time that you are given and vow to be a better person from here on out. Confess. Tell the truth. Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more updates on this case and other cases.